Oh, I didn't see you there. I thought you were done staring at my ugly mug, so I brought you this one. I'm not even gonna try to say the company name that makes this because y'all know I'm as dyslexic as hell. But you can check the links in the description and buy one for yourself. Patriarchy, building civilization for 5,000 years and counting. Winning. If you want to drink deeply from the cup of expendability, well, this is a good start. Did I say expendability? I meant to say truth. What's up, you white rhesus monkeys? Terrence Popp here, Redonkulous.com.
And returning from a weekend of sticking my salty pretzel in the chocolate fountain, I'm Toxic Male.
Bad Pop showed up today because I got bad news for all you sleeping woke-tards out there. Turns out, everything you were taught in school is a goddamn lie. What's even funnier, you believed it, and you actually paid for it! Oh my god. Lawsuits against critical race theory? Well, they're popping up all over the country. Because I'm not sure if you got the memo, but it's 100% weapons grade bullshit.
It's just another BS fairy tale concocted by leftists so they can pretend they're good people.
And put money into the pockets of racists with worthless college degrees. Did you know that a degree in women's studies is so versatile, all you can do with it is teach women's studies? Most of the time, these educated idiots graduate college with only two things to show for it. 6 figures in student debt and every type of herpetogonosyphilis there is. Hell, that's a bargain at any price. Their brains haven't just been washed, they've been scoured, bleached, and hung out to dry. As a result, they refuse to accept reality on its own terms. Because right now, in this reality, facts care less about your feelings than I actually do. What's less than nothing? But you keep trying to bend reality to your will like a bunch of tantrum-throwing crybabies. When all else fails, you keep repeating the lies over and over and over again, hoping that somehow it all becomes true.
But Mommy, I'm a girl!
No, you're not. You must have got up early to beat me to the punch here.
Yes, I am! I even get a period!
I'm sorry to break it to you, kid, but smearing strawberry jam on a maxi pad a period does not make. You want ants? Because that's how you get ants. In your pants. Screen 5. I guess this is why people still believe in white privilege. Oh my god. You ever wonder where this completely insane concept came from? I know I have. Well, after scouring the internet for years, which was fought tooth and nail by Google's algorithms, I believe I located the first domino in this avalanche of stupidity. And if you think this whole thing was thought up by a stunning and brave person of color, guess again! We're gonna show you the receipts in just a minute, but first pour yourself the menagerie of booze and get yourself ready for the bad news. Yeah. Allow me to introduce you to white privilege patient 0, Peggy McIntosh, PhD. Oh my god! Ah! Ah! She's a racist, sexist sack of shit. And she makes her living as an anti-racist feminist. You can't even make this shit up. Peggy McIntosh has made a career out of lying to minorities and women in order to keep them subservient to the same system that they want to smash.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
And like the typical girl power advocate who put their career first, thinking that some quality man would show up with all of the trappings of success, She's alone, childless, and has one foot in the grave. Winning.
That is so mean.
And she's using our children to punish everyone who ignored her Miss Piggy face. And the disgusting beef and cheddar which is attached to it, oh my god. But I am astonished that this garbage human has never polluted the gene pool. After all, men who marry feminists, well, they wind up the happiest, right, Miss Horton? And what man would not get rock hard reading fuckery like this?
White privilege and male privilege. A personal account of coming to see correspondences through work in women's studies.
Yeah, because dedicating your life to female supremacy obviously makes you an expert on masculinity and race. Space Ghost.
Through work to bring materials and perspectives from women's studies into the rest of the curriculum.
Wow! Her goal as a teacher is to infect all areas of study with her vaginal drippings. Because women's studies and math and science, they totally go together. Oh, no.
I have often noticed men's unwillingness to grant that they are overprivileged in the curriculum, even though they may grant that women are disadvantaged. Denials that amount to taboos surround the subject of advantages that men gain from women's disadvantages. These denials protect male privilege from being fully recognized, acknowledged, lessened, or ended.
I would like proof of male privilege for 400, Alex. Oh, there isn't any? Shocker. Want to smell it?
No.
I figured as much.
Thinking through unacknowledged male privilege as a phenomenon with a life of its own, I realized that since hierarchies in our society are interlocking, there was most likely a phenomenon of white privilege that was similarly denied and protected, but alive and real in its effects.
Which I will not go into here, or even make an attempt to prove that they actually exist.
But
If you don't believe me, well, you're just proving my point, right?
she sets this up as the perfect, logical rim job. A never-ending feedback loop of fantasy shitting on reality.
This is their god. So get on your knees and worship, you bigots.
And could you just please apologize for your white privilege?
And if you deny its existence, well, that only makes it stronger.
But we're the party of science, right? We believe in facts and reason. Unless it proves us wrong, then it's white supremacy and we don't have to listen to that.
You see how clever this part is? How it doesn't require a shred of proof? And most paranoid delusions are intricate, but this is brilliant.
As a white person, I realized I had been taught about racism as something that puts others at a disadvantage, but had been taught not to see one of its corollary aspects, white privilege, which puts me at an advantage.
Oh yeah, right, because, no white person in the world has ever been poor, downtrodden, or enslaved. They totally don't make up a majority of welfare recipients in the U.S., right? They've never been homeless or had to miss a meal ever in their lives. You know that homeless veteran with the cardboard sign who lives in a refrigerator box? According to Miss McIntosh, that box dweller has more privilege than any Asian or Middle Eastern ethnicity that currently occupy 9 out of 10 of the richest demographics in the United States. And, unlike her, I brought some receipts, links in the description.
I think whites are carefully taught not to recognize white privilege, as males are taught not to recognize male privilege.
I think I missed that class. Toxic male. Was I sick that day?
I don't know. I think that was the same day as that class where they teach boys to rape. I think I skipped both of those so I could go get high. Winning.
Now, Timmy, don't you dare pay too much attention to that privilege, because if you do, it might just go away.
So I have begun in an untutored way to ask what it is like to have white privilege.
Here we go.
This paper is a partial record of my personal observations and not a scholarly analysis. It is based on my daily experiences within my particular circumstances.
Boom goes the dynamite. This is like shooting yourself in the foot with a bazooka. And no, I am not making this up. I will put a link to the entire paper in the description. But I have to ask, do we have to debunk this now? Because she kind of did it for us.
Just given how destructive and pervasive this mindset has been to our country and its race relations, if I had told you just 10 minutes ago, would you have believed me if I said that this entire idea of white privilege was concocted from the anecdotes of a postmenopausal lonely white hag? Yeah, me too.
Generations of useful idiots were created and weaponized against us by this damn bitch. They are burning down cities full of black-owned businesses all over the country to fight racism, right? All this because of one white gunts. Oh, sexually frustrated observations. You thought that this shit was dumb before. We just cranked it up to 11.
With social distancing regulations in effect all over the country, you can't spend all day on Pornhub. So in between those fapping sessions, expand your mind with Uncle Nick. A 30-something bachelor in the jizz-soaked shores of California, he's probably the only guy left there who hasn't banged Amy Horton. His panache for public intoxication makes him the perfect redonkulous companion during this quarantine. Because you wouldn't want to be seen with this guy outside of your home, even if you could. Download your copy on Amazon today, a link is in the description.
I have come to see white privilege as an invisible package of unearned assets that I can count on cashing in each day, but about which I was meant to remain oblivious.
This coming from the founder of the National Foundation for Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity. That's right, equity, the keystone of socialism. In other words, anyone who's below average on that bell curve will become the immediate beneficiary of unearned assets. The irony on this is through the roof, and the only one who doesn't see it is Peggy McIntosh.
White privilege is like an invisible, weightless knapsack of special provisions, assurances, tools, maps, guides, codebooks, passports, visas, clothes, compass, emergency gear, and blank checks.
Oh, absolutely. I'm wondering why I didn't see this before. I'll be right back. I need some more booze.
Oh yes, that'll be $12, please. Oh, you can. Okay. Hello, 911. Yes, I call you because I about to shoot shoplifter. Yes, thank you. Very good. Goodbye. Hello, sir. You forgot your change.
You see how this whole thing falls apart with the slightest touch of reason, logic, and sarcasm? Her argument is, it exists, and if you don't see it, well, it's your fault. You were trained not to see it by a bunch of mental ninjas who mess around with your thinking me.
Stupid this terminal requires a tall glass of morphine.
Since I have had trouble facing white privilege and describing its results in my life, I saw parallels here with men's reluctance to acknowledge male privilege.
This ought to be good.
Only rarely will a man go beyond acknowledging that women are disadvantaged to acknowledging that men have unearned advantage, or that unearned privilege has not been good for men's development as human beings, or for society's development, or that privilege systems might ever be challenged and changed.
How about this? You prove that men are privileged, and you provide some facts and evidence, and perhaps we'll get out of the way for you. And ladies, you can shoulder all of the burdens of the human race while everyone blames you for it. But until that day, go eat a big steaming bowl of dicks. Women are not disadvantaged in the West. They have more legal rights than men. Fact, not opinion. They get handed money, hand over fist, for simply having a vagina and treating it like a clown car.
Are you employed?
No.
How do you feel about that?
I'm comfortable with it, and I feel like I don't need to look for one because I get a check from the government every month.
They are exempt from the draft while being included in affirmative action, even though they're a majority. They hold all of the reproductive rights while men hold zero. They do 1/3 the time in prison for doing the same crime as a man. And they win child custody 85% of the time just for showing up. I gotta say, ladies, all of that unearned privilege has not been good for your development. You see what I did there? Besides, that's not the type of development I'm interested in. This is Screen 5.
I will review here several types or layers of denial that I see at work protecting and preventing awareness about entrenched male privilege.
This must be the proof I've been waiting for. 6 paragraphs deep.
Then I will draw parallels from my own experience with the denials that veil the facts of white privilege.
You keep using that word facts. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Finally, I will list 46 ordinary and daily ways in which I experience having white privilege, by contrast with my African-American colleagues in the same building. This list is not intended to be generalizable. Others can make their own lists from within their own life circumstances.
Oh, how silly of me. Space Ghost. She has yet to prove white or male privilege exists, but this is definitely how you prove women have privilege, ladies and germs. Because one woman dropped a nuke on a crumbling republic with a survey, and in the process, brainwashed generations of kids into destroying themselves. And if that's not proof enough of female privilege, just go sign on to Twitch.
And you gotta love the flagrant tokenism that she employs to avoid valid criticism. I'm sure that her so-called African-American friends just love how she used them as pawns in this little racist game of chess.
Writing this paper has been difficult, despite warm receptions for the talks on which it is based. For describing white privilege makes one newly accountable.
In other words, Peggy McIntosh isn't just better than you. She's a lot better than you.
As we in women's studies work reveal male privilege.
Sergeant Popp here. I just got a question. How?
And ask men to give up some of their power.
Well, it's me again. If women are physically and mentally equal to men, why exactly is that necessary?
So one who writes about having white privilege must ask, having described it, what will I do to lessen or end it?
Or, you know, you could prove it exists. That might make people more willing to listen. And I got a real truth bomb for you there, Miss Piggy. Just because you can describe something doesn't mean it actually exists. I can describe a unicorn in detail. It looks like a horse, but it's angelically white. Kind of like me, Screen 5. It's got a spiral horn in the middle of its forehead that comes to a wicked point, and unicorn blood has amazing healing factors in it. They're amazing creatures. Too bad they don't fucking exist. Kind of like white privilege and those pesky vampires.
The denial of men's overprivileged state takes many forms in discussions of curriculum change work. Some claim that men must be central in the curriculum because they have done most of what is important or distinctive in life or in civilization.
That's not a denial. It's called a fact. As a so-called academic, perhaps you should look up words so you know what they actually mean and stuff before you open your disgusting vacuous suckhole.
Some recognize sexism in the curriculum, but deny that it makes male students seem unduly important in life.
Tell that to the lottery of death, otherwise known as the draft.
I'm sure all those 18-year-old kids who got smoked on the beach at Normandy while their wives were back home sucking the factory foreman's frothy filth stick felt unduly important too.
Most of these men weren't even important enough to have their carcasses sent back to the States. Your point isn't just invalid, it's in a vegetative state.
Others agree that certain individual thinkers are male-oriented, but deny that there is any systemic tendency in disciplinary frameworks or epistemology to over-empower men as a group.
Oh, you mean like affirmative action? Space Ghost. I guess that explains why over 2/3 of student debt is held by women. Or it could mean more women are going to college on the government dime, which would mean they're being over-empowered by the system, right?
Those men who do grant that male privilege takes institutionalized and embedded forms are still likely to deny that male hegemony has opened doors for them personally.
It hasn't, certainly when I was being shot at. I'm still waiting for proof.
Virtually all men deny that male over-reward alone can explain men's centrality in all the inner sanctums of our most powerful institutions.
Because that's completely impossible, that's why. Men don't get to walk into Congress, present our wedding tackle as credentials, and then finger fuck the nuclear football. It doesn't happen. To insist that owning a penis gets me anything other than access to pissing on a urinal cake is delusional.
And to expect anyone to believe that men are so oblivious to our own reality and our surroundings that we need some ugly, self-righteous, patronizing, dried-up, old-path bitch to tell us how we're fucking up the works for everyone else is certifiably narcissistic on a level that only Time Magazine could appreciate.
I'm just gonna say what everyone's thinking out there. Peggy McIntosh is a fucking idiot. And anyone out there that takes her seriously needs some extreme chiropractic before they take a dump in the gene pool.
Moreover, those few who will acknowledge that male privilege systems have over-empowered them usually end up doubting that we could dismantle these privilege systems.
You can't dismantle a power system. That just doesn't exist. Especially when you have blithering idiots like Peggy McIntosh constantly voting to give the truly privileged more and more power.
Because they're different and they love you and they care about your life.
Get out of here.
They may say they will work to improve women's status in the society or in the university, but they can't or won't support the idea of lessening men's.
Okay, you got a dark room with 2 candles in it. You blow one out. Does it make it brighter? All you were promised, ladies and minorities, was equality of opportunity, not outcome. So that's why I'm guessing Miss Piggy started her seed-swallowing organization. Because when you can't succeed on your own merits, it must be the system's fault, right?
It couldn't possibly be because social coddling and actual privilege has turned Western women into a bunch of self-centered, entitled, spoiled brats.
Here's the thought. You want to improve your status as a woman? Well, go and earn it like a man. And when you fail, because we all do, learn to take it like one. Wah. The difference is, the government, they'll step in to clean up your mess, not mine. One might call that, I don't know, a privilege? Do yourself a favor, Miss Piggy. Stop trying to convince us all that all your failures were because of penis. After all, women have no problem with penis when it's throwing money at them hand over fist in exchange for shitty selfies or a squeak on the pole, you obnoxious sleuths.
When the talk turns to giving men less cultural room, even the most thoughtful and fair-minded of the men I know will tend to reflect or fall back on conservative assumptions about the inevitability of present gender relations and distributions of power, calling on precedent or sociobiology and psychobiology to demonstrate that male domination is natural and follows inevitably from evolutionary pressures.
It does. Competition is what perpetuates the species. If you don't like the traits that these men are displaying, stop fornicating and procreating with them. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot. I'm not allowed to bring logic to the table on this one. You're a strong, empowered welfare queen. You can sleep with whoever you want, and no one should judge you for it. Must be nice to create your own problem and bellyache about it on the taxpayer's dime. I don't get that privilege.
Others resort to arguments from experience, or religion, or social responsibility, or wishing and dreaming.
I'm sorry, come again? Oh no, that was not an invitation. Put the double stroker away. Peggy McIntosh has written an entire paper here, derived exclusively from her own experiences, and exploiting token people of color. A thesis that is yet to provide one fact or compelling argument. But when men deny the existence of their so-called privilege, by resorting to arguments from experience, that's not allowed. Suddenly, experience goes into the category of wishing and dreaming. Rules for thee and none for me. This cunt should have been a politician.
After I realized through faculty development work in women's studies the extent to which men work from a base of unacknowledged privilege.
Bullshit! I'm sorry. Please go on.
I understood that much of their oppressiveness was unconscious. Then I remembered the frequent charges from women of color that white women whom they encounter are oppressive. I began to understand why we are justly seen as oppressive, even when we don't see ourselves that way.
This is some of the laziest thinking I've come across in my entire life. In fact, I'm not even sure it should be called thinking. It can't just be that humans in general are selfish, hairless monkeys. It can't be that everyone is the hero in their own story, right? It's not like it's always easier to blame someone else when you fail. All that Miss Piggy McIntosh has done is pre-package an excuse for lazy, dishonest people, so they can shift accountability based on their own sexist bigotry. And now there's enough of these idiots running around to cause $2 billion in damages during fiery but peaceful protests. Stunning and brave.
At the very least, obliviousness of one's privileged state can make a person or group irritating to be with.
Tell me about it. I am nowhere near this repugnant cow and I can't stand her. When you can make a whole career out of peddling lies and disinformation for the sole purpose of oppressing a group of people, for having the gall to not wife you up in your fertile years, that is the very definition of unearned privilege.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I I began to count the ways in which I enjoy unearned skin privilege and have been conditioned into oblivion about its existence, unable to see that it put me ahead in any way, or put my people ahead, over-rewarding us and yet also paradoxically damaging us, or that it could or should be changed.
Going to this woman for logic is like asking the Democrats not to incite violence.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men.
Stop trying to make that happen. It's not going to happen.
My schooling gave me no training in seeing myself as an oppressor, as an unfairly advantaged person, or as a participant in a damaged culture. I was taught to see myself as an individual whose moral state depended on her individual moral will.
Those were the days. Schools actually cared about educating their children. I miss those days, and I pray I live long enough to see them come back.
At school, we were not taught about slavery in any depth. We were not taught to see slaveholders as damaged people. Slaves were seen as the only group at risk of being dehumanized.
Let me get this straight. You want me to feel empathy for slaveholders? Did you run all this by the woke mafia before you decided to shit all this out? I'm just asking for a friend.
My schooling followed the pattern which Elizabeth Minich has pointed out. Whites are taught to think of their lives as morally neutral, normative, and average, and also ideal, so that when we work to benefit others, this is seen as work that will allow them to be more like us. I think many of us know how obnoxious this attitude can be in men.
When our culture created a civilization and then opened its doors to other cultures to create a melting pot, the reason our culture is seen as neutral and average is we built the civilization. And if we were that racist and deplorable, would millions of people risk their lives and their children to come here year after year? And would all of them be greeted with open arms no matter their race, color, creed, or genitalia? Provided that they assimilate into the culture. You know, learn the language, embrace our values, become self-sufficient, and pay taxes?
Maybe being the normative average in a society is a privilege you earn by being the culture that created what is still the greatest country on earth.
Even though it's in rapid decline thanks to pieces of shit like Piggy Macintosh, Screen 5. Because it's nothing short of psychotic when equality isn't good enough. When you have to crush everyone around you into mediocrity so you can feel the illusion of power and success. There's no other word for it other than pathetic.
After frustration with men who would not recognize male privilege, I decided to try and work on myself at least by identifying some of the daily effects of white privilege in my life.
Gee, I can't imagine why every man didn't immediately jump on board to perpetuate this insipid, unproven, morally and intellectually bankrupt brain diarrhea. Must be that fragile male ego that I hear so much about.
Not for nothing, cobweb crotch, but if you approach these dudes with the same virtue signaling on full blast, you're lucky you didn't get punched right in the cock holster.
It is crude work at this stage, but I will give here a list of special circumstances and conditions I experienced that I did not earn, but that I have been made to feel are mine by birth, by citizenship, and by virtue of being a conscientious, law-abiding, normal person of goodwill.
Here we go, anything but this. Oh, shit.
I have chosen those conditions that I think in my case attach somewhat more to skin color privilege than to class, religion, ethnic status, or geographical location. Though these other privileging factors are intricately intertwined. As far as I can see, my Afro-American co-workers, friends, and acquaintances with whom I come into daily or frequent contact with in this particular time, place, and line of work cannot count on most of these conditions.
In other words, what follows are 46 extraordinarily racist personal anecdotes with all the scientific credibility of Bill Nye.
You realize that she only polled black folks who think like she does? Nice. Usually when you do a survey for scientific purposes, you want to avoid, what's it called? Oh, that's right, sampling bias.
I'm sorry, lady, but the day we go to a feminist for insights into the male condition is the day we hop a private jet to a climate summit with Greta Thunberg.
How dare you!
I'd rather staple my nutsack to the swinging door of the transgender bathroom. Jesus Christ. Speaking of which, isn't all of this completely irrelevant now? When your ideology says men can be women and white people can be black?
If Talcum X can be black, and Macho Ma'am Tranny Savage can have a period,
every notion of male or white privilege isn't just gone, but to insist it exists is actually bigotry. Oh. Because if parents assigning gender at birth is oppression, using that assigned gender to make me your supervillain, isn't that worse? Because you're demonizing an entire race and sex of people based on nothing more than superficial genetics.
There's a couple words that describe that kind of evil hatred, isn't there? I mean, you lefties love to throw them around while you're burning buildings down.
Oh, that's right. That makes you an ist of every kind. But you've changed the definition of all those words. It only counts if it's coming from white men now. Any hatred flowing in our direction, well, that's just a response to oppression. And all of that needs to be celebrated, right? Space Ghost. And with that painfully stupid double standard fresh in your brain, I need to take a break. There's only so much stupid I can digest at one time, and I'm starting to get myself some heartburn. So we're gonna cover the 46 paper cuts of Idiocracy next week. Have that menagerie ready, dudes, because it's gonna be a rumpy, pumpy ride, and you're gonna need it. And to Miss Piggy McIntosh, if you think I was mean today, you just wait. There's math for less than nothing, and I absolutely failed it because I didn't care, because it doesn't exist. Yeah. I'm like, so wait a minute. I'm spending a whole semester here learning how to do math for shit that's less than zero. Huh. How many times in the real world am I going to come across this? Yeah, I crushed accounting because a number one meant a dollar, or meant a penny, or a dime. Physical shit that exists in the real world. Yeah. Crushed it.
Crushed it.
I crushed statistics because you're counting shit that actually happens and stuff like that. Yeah, but all of that hypothetical math shit, they can suck my dick.